Alright, good evening, guys. Should be live, I think. We should be live now. I don't know. It says live. Oh, yeah, we're live. It's weird seeing yourself on camera. 38 minutes and 38 minutes, 38 seconds. Should be good. All right, we're back. Again, welcome to the call-in show. If you have something to say, we do have a Discord that you can join and we can talk. Let's see here. So this is the Discord. Like I said, if you want to chat, and here's the URL. You can copy it and take a look at it. I already had it as do not expire, but alright, that's fine. That's weird. Okay, does it change every time? No, it's the same thing. So yeah, join the Discord server and we can get some chats going. And then yeah, so the topic of tonight, as you can see, is hopefully you guys can hear me. My mic level's showing good. Yeah, it's all showing good on my end. I should be good. I'm still live. Going for 2 minutes now. All right, so what did I want to talk about tonight? Topic of discussion is Nazis, but before we begin that, let me take a. Gotta get some water in there. All right. So before we begin that, I don't know. I feel like this word gets thrown out a lot, especially nowadays by people that have no idea, I think, what they're talking about. It's just become a symbol of I don't know, sowing fear into people. Like, oh, just this. This looks like burning my eyes. Alright, that's too low. That's alright. Alright. But yeah, I just wanted to get on here and talk about what is a Nazi, who are Nazis, what were the Nazis, are you a Nazi, am I a Nazi? We're probably all Nazis, so let's, someone's going to clip that, but we're going to take a look at that. But before we begin, I've been really like locked into a movie lately, and I'd seen the movie before, but for whatever reason, it took me watching it again to there was a scene in that movie that really resonates with me, and I think it would resonate with a lot of people. Now, I don't think I'm allowed to show this the scene itself, but in the movie's called Fury by, I think it's like a 2014 movie by I forgot who the director was. I think it's David Ayers. But basically, the whole premise of the movie is Brad Pitt's the lead. The lead, Shia LaBeouf did incredibly, I think, in that movie, and the guy from that was Sandman and Spider-Man. I can't think of the actor's name to save my life, but he was also in it, and then so was the Hispanic actor. I forgot his name. He also did pretty good in the movie. But anyway, the whole premise of the movie is it's World War II. These Americans are overseas fighting the Nazis, and they're in a tank. And the whole objective of them and the whole thing of the movie is just showing how evil war is, how bad war is, but it also shows like, I don't know, that sometimes it's necessary to take out evil. But there were two lines in that movie that really stuck out. One of them was a scripture, which I really want to go into right now, and the second one was the line by Brad Pitt when he said that ideals are peaceful, but that war, not war, ideals are peaceful, but history is violent, which is very true. And that goes to, I've been having some conversations with some people I know, and they often like to talk about like the past and how evil America was, how evil the United States is. And I always find it strange that people like to focus on all the evils of the United States, of America, of, you know, this great nation, but they never once think to point out all the evils that even people like Native Americans committed atrocities. And I know, like, from my heritage, like the Aztecs and Mayans, how they would literally sacrifice babies at the altar of their gods. And there's something in there as well that kind of links into abortion, but I won't get into that right now. But it's crazy to think that people will go out of their way to point out all the evil that America's done, but never once will they sit and say, "Oh well, over in Russia, the Nazis killed 6 million Jews. Stalin in Russia killed even more people under the communist regime. Even to this day, North Korea, all the killing that they've done, they're still under communist rule, which is just insane to me. And then, all the evils that Mao did in China. There's evil is all over the world. It's not like America is the only one committing these evils. And no one on this earth can claim to claim the superior, like can take the high road pretty much and say, "Oh, I've committed no evil at all ever," because that's not true. And history just shows us that. Like, and anyway, those are some thoughts I had. But again, that was it's a really great movie, and basically it's a war movie. It shows this group of five characters that are in a tank, piloting a tank. It's showing all the atrocities of war. It shows how they really bond together. They become close friends. Um, it's I would highly recommend if you haven't seen it, watching it. I think it's a fantastic movie, especially like towards the end. It'll bring a grown man to tears, I think, especially if you understand the context of what's going on at the end, where they're having to. I'm basically spoiling the whole movie, so I mean I don't care. But anyway, so at the end of the movie, they're giving Brad Pitt's unit is given orders to hold down a crossroads, and apparently if they don't hold it down, the Germans will advance, and it will be bad for the Allied armies. So the four tanks go in. Brad Pitt's tank, their tank is the only one left, and they have to take on about 200 to 300 German soldiers, and they're basically in a it's basically a suicide mission at that point, and they pretty much know it. Everyone in the crew knows it, that they're gonna die. And let me and it's their last. They're taking their last sips of a wine, I think, and they're basically like They're basically, they know they're about to die, and they know it's their last moments. And Jonah Hill, Shia LaBeouf's character basically recites a Bible verse, and it's in the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, and it says. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 8. And it reads, I'm gonna try not I feel like this whole channel is just me crying. I'm not like, I guess I am super emotional, but I'm gonna try not to shed tears. It's really hard not to. If you watch the movie and like you see, it was fantastic acting by Shia LaBeouf's character, might I add. But um, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, chapter 6, verse 8 says, and I heard. Okay, it says, and I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Then I said, here I am, send me. And then he said, go and say to these people, and say to this people, keep on hearing but do not understand, keep on seeing but do not perceive. And I was reading through, because even that, they did cut off that end, but still, like, it's a fantastic verse. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And then I said, here I am, send me. And in the context of that movie, it's pretty touching, pretty powerful. Men that know that they're about to die, and then taking that verse, and it was very moving. But that verse itself is also, I think, very on its own is a very powerful message, and in the context, here, um, Isaiah is basically getting a commandment from God to and the really cool thing is, so if you keep reading, it says, and he said, go and say to this people, keep on hearing but do not understand, keep on seeing but do not perceive. Make the heart of this people dull, and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. Then I said, how long, O Lord, until? And he said, until cities lie waste, without inhabitant, and houses without people, and the land is a desolate waste. And the Lord removes people far away, and the forsaken places are many in the midst of the land, and though a tenth remain in it, it will be burned again, like a terebinth or an oak, whose stump remains when it is felled. The holy seed is its stump. Man, and this is to the wicked. This was basically God judging the wickedness of the people back then, and he was calling on Isaiah to go and speak up against it, pretty much. And it was pretty powerful to hear someone say, "Here I am, send me." But yeah, that was just some thoughts I had. It's nothing to do with Nazis, but I like to start these by reading some scripture and just having, like, I don't know, just putting some thoughts of that out there. I really need to read more of this. Um, if we keep reading, it says in Isaiah sent to King Ahaz. In the days of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, Rezin the king of Syria, and Pekah the son of Remaliah the king of Israel came up to Jerusalem to wage war against it, but could not yet mount an attack against it. When the house of David was told, Syria is in league with Ephraim, the heart of Ahaz and the heart of his people shook as the trees of the forest shake before the wind. And the Lord said to Isaiah, go out to meet Ahaz, and you and share your son at the end of the conduit of the upper pool on the highest. And it's really interesting to read this. I've actually never I need to read more of it, but The book of Isaiah, and this was, I mean, this is the wickedness of Judah. I guess God had issues with Judah at the time. Judgment, salvation. So yeah, but that was just my thoughts. Like I said, if you haven't seen the movie Fury, I would highly recommend it. Oh, am I still live? Hold on. I think I accidentally. I should be live. Stop streaming. No, I should be live still. I think. I think I hit a button. I don't know. That's weird. All right. So it's saying I'm still live. All right. That's fine. Anyway. All right. So what is a Nazi? That's because I feel like everyone in that's on the right? That's um that leans Republican, that leans you know, that doesn't lean left or democratic or democrat and everyone on that side labels anyone on the right as a Nazi, and that's happened, I think, to be honest, that I feel like that's been happening for years, even under like I think Bush, they used to call him we can just look it up. Was George Bush ever called a Nazi? I don't know if see uh, yes, yes, both George H.W. Bush, both so not only and George Bush have been subject to comparison with Nazis or accusations of fascist behavior by critics. Some critics overseas, that's crazy, right? Nazi symbolism in 2006. So you got to think this stuff has been going on. How Bush's grandfather helped Hitler's rise to power. This is from 2004, so we're actually going to take a look at this because, and this is from The Guardian, which is very left leaning. Is more than 20 years old. That's crazy. This is interesting. Let's see. Rumors. So this isn't even okay. So we're gonna read this. This is a 20-year-old article, by the way. The Guardian is very left leaning. How Bush's grandfather helped Hitler rise to power. Rumors of a link between the U.S. first family and the Nazi war machine have circulated for decades. Now, The Guardian can reveal how repercussions of events that culminated in action under the Trading with the Enemy Act are still being felt by today's president. This is so crazy. So even back in, what is this? When was George Sr. in office? The time Bob Dole called George Nazi. The low blows of 2016, but there's plenty of precedent. Yes, there is. Because Bob Dole. I'll get you someday, you fucking Nazi. This is in the 80s. In the 1980 Republican primary, Ronald Reagan pulled off one of the most endured stunts by standing up before a debate in Nashville and thundering over water. I am paying for this microphone, Mr. Green. The outburst will stand up between editor and Nashville. Trying to get a seat at the table. Reagan and George H.W. The paper went one-on-one between Reagan and Bush. Bush also sought who had to write and check to fund the debate with Bush in order to get around federal. But once all men were packed, it seems that the crowd was in favor of allowing the four other candidates to have their say. Then John Bren, not Green, as Reagan famously mispronounced, tried to shut down Reagan, the Hollywood star. Man, okay. So basically, this has been going on since the 80s. Politicians calling each other Nazis. And, okay. So George Bush's grandfather, the late U.S. Senator Prescott Bush, was a director of and shareholder of companies that profited from their involvement with financial backers of Nazi Germany. The Guardian has obtained confirmation from newly discovered files in the U.S. National Archives that a firm of which Prescott Bush was a director was involved with financial architect of Nazism. His business dealings, which continued until his company's assets were seized in 1942 under the Trading with Enemy Act, has led more than 60 years later to civil. This is interesting. What's going on? Are we still live? Yeah, we should be. Okay, there we go. Now, I was reading here, but the debate over President Bush's behavior has been bubbling under the surface. There has been a steady internet chatter about the Bush/Nazi connection. Much of it inaccurate and unfair, but the new documents many. Bush was also on the board of at least one of the companies that formed part of a multinational network of front companies to allow Tyson to move assets around the world. Tyson owned the largest steel and coal company in Germany and grew rich from Hitler's effort to rearm between the two world wars. One of the pillars in Tyson's international corporate web, UBC, worked exclusively for and was owned by Tyson-controlled bank in Netherlands. More tantalizing are Bush's links to the Consolidated Silesian Steel Company, based in during which war, blah blah blah. So basically, they're alleging that just because Bush's great grandfather, well, George Bush's great grandfather, Bush Senior's father, was part of or dealed with people that funded the Nazis, the German party, would that in turn make him a Nazi? Like, I don't see, like, even if it's true, that, because often in business, you have to leave politics out of it, and sometimes maybe that's a bad thing, but like your morals, and at the time it really depends, because I'm sure it says it by the late 1930s. Okay, in 1924, the father-in-law set him up in business in New York with Averell Harriman, the wealthy son of a railroad magnate, E.H. Harriman, in New York, who had gone into banking. UBC, Bush was funding member of the bank, and incorporated documents which list him as one of 7 directors show he owned one share in UBC worth $125. The bank was set up by Harriman, and Bush's father-in-law to provide a U.S. bank for the Tysons, Germany's most powerful industrial family. August Tyson, the founder of the dynasty, had been a major contributor for Germany's First World War effort. In the 1920s, he and his son Fritz and Heinrich established a network of overseas banks and companies so their assets and money could be whisked offshore if threatened again. By the time Fritz Tyson inherited the business empire in 1926, Germany's economic recovery was faltering. After hearing Adolf Hitler speak, Tyson became mesmerized by the young firebrand. He joined the Nazi Party in December 1931 and admits backing Hitler in his autobiography. I paid Hitler when the National Socialists were still a radical fringe party. Radical fringe party. Now, does that sound like something that Republicans or people that are God-fearing people would be a part of? Absolutely not. He stepped in several times to bail out the struggling party. In 1928, Tyson had bought the Barlow Palace in Brunnenstrasse in Munich, which Hitler converted into a Brown House, the headquarters of the Nazi Party. The money came from another Tyson overseas institution, the bank. But see, okay, so obviously this Tyson guy that founded UBC that apparently George Bush worked for, and at the time it was just starting to blow up, right? Like at the time it's not like Hitler was already in power. In 1941, Tyson fled Germany after falling out with Hitler, but he was captured in France and detained for the remainder of the war. There was nothing illegal in doing business with the Tysons throughout the 1930s, and many of America's best-known business names invested heavily in the German economic recovery. That's right. And that's the most important line, I think. There's nothing illegal about doing business with the Tysons. Like, it's just capital. Like, it's just money. Like, I don't know. And because of that, someone gets called a Nazi, even though the person wasn't even part of the Nazi party or didn't directly contribute to them, right? It's like, I don't know, man. And it's crazy because this stuff has been going on, as you can see, since the 80s. People are calling each other Nazis. Like, that's. I'll get you someday, you effing Nazi. Meanwhile, Bush sat stone-faced and idled by, and the undercard candidates, including Bob Dole, were livid at him for it. After the lively confrontation, the four candidates sauntered away and into the press conference. I'll never understand George Bush's attitude as long as I live. They stiffed us. That's what they did, Dole complained to reporters. In one account, according to Dickerson, Dole later confronted Bush to his face and whispered a threat for the ages. I'll get you someday, you fucking Nazi, he told him. What Dole said was extraordinary because it meant to be private, and it was extraordinary because they didn't hear that kind of language from candidates, Dickerson says. And this was this was in the 80s, no? Bob Dole. Bob Dole, George W. Bush. Like, people have been calling Republicans Nazis. Let me see. 1996 presidential candidate. He was a Kansas. He was a Republican leader of the Senate during the final 11 years. So Bob Dole was a Republican. Born, died December 5th, 2021, 98 years old. Rest in peace, Mr. Dole. That's crazy, though. But that's crazy because it was a Republican calling another Republican a Nazi. And, but why do they why are they calling people Nazis? And, Nazism or National Socialism. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Nazism or National Socialism. And this is coming from AI. If you go to Google, type in Nazi. AI overview. Nazism or National Socialism. Nazism or National Socialism was the far right. It was the far right totalitarian ideology and practices associated with Adolf Hitler. Now, I'd like to challenge this, that it was far right, right? Because why is it being labeled as far right? Like, what exactly makes it far right? Let's see. The term Nazi is a shortening of the party's full name, and because even in the name itself, right? Socialism. So I think it'll help, right? So now let's look up socialism. And according to Google's AI, is a political and economic philosophy based on the concept of social or collective ownership of the means of production, as opposed to private ownership. Socialism is an arm of communism, and there's no way around that. Common examples. So it's about seizing the means of production, and where have we heard that before? Based on the concept of social or collective ownership of the means of production. as opposed to private ownership. I could never ever claim to be a socialist. I could never do it based on that alone. There's social democracy, democratic socialism, libertarian socialism. All of this is bullshit. Universal health care, public infrastructure, worker cooperatives, social welfare programs. And yet, the Nazis were called National Socialism. And they name it far right. Now, the Nazis obviously ruled from 1930 to 1945 using totalitarian methods. Now, obviously, you can't refute that. Maybe they were a little bit. They were totalitarian. They took over everything. Now, the core ideology was the Nazi ideology combined intense nationalism with virulent racism, and anti-Semitism. Key components include racial purity, anti-Semitism, expansionism, militarism, authoritarianism, the absolute authority of a single charismatic dictator, Hitler. Holocaust, murder of other groups, blah blah blah, cultural genocide. After the war, there were war crimes at the Nuremberg trials. In many countries, Nazi-related symbols, Nazis were banned. Let's take a look at this. And this is just a refresher for people. I'm sure if you've taken history before, you know all this. It's interesting. Let's take a look. The mass movement known as National Socialism. Let's take a look at National Socialism. So, by totalitarian methods until 1945 was fundamental to the party's ideology, to the Holocaust, blah, blah, blah. We already know that. Well, not blah, blah, blah. 6 million Jews were killed. That's terrible. And the Beer Hall Push. The Nazi Party was founded as the German Workers' Party by Anton Drexler, a Munich locksmith. The Nazi Party, so the Nazi Party was founded as the German Workers' Party. Now, I don't know about you guys, but whenever we hear, the workers, who's the one talking about the workers and uniting the workers, who's for, what are those things called? Unions, workers, the working party, the working man, the working blah, blah, blah. It's always people on the left. It's always the Democratic side. They're the ones pushing for this stuff. And yet, the Nazis are apparently far right, which makes no sense. So, the Nazi Party was founded as the German Workers' Party by Anton Drexler, a Munich locksmith in 1919. Hitler attended one of its meetings that year, and before long, his energy and oratorical skills would enable him that's a cool word, would enable him to take over the party, which was renamed National Socialist German Workers' Party. I want you guys to remember this. National Socialist German Workers' Party. National Socialist German Workers. Nazis. Like I said before, there's only one side on the political aisle that targets the working party or the unions, and that's Democrats. And they also label themselves socialists. Socialism, they're all for that. So it boggles my mind to think that people label Republicans Nazis. Because Nazis aren't for Republicans aren't for socialism. You know, I we don't believe in seizing the means of production. That's like collective ownership of the means of production. No, we don't believe in that. We believe in private ownership, as you should, as opposed to private anything that why are socialists even given like a platform? I understand this is America and that you have the freedom to express your beliefs, as retarded as they might seem. As like, how are we even? And this is, by the way, this is Google's AI, by the way, saying this, as opposed to private ownership. Like, anything outside of private ownership should be looked on with such skepticism. It's like, okay, explain to me why socialism is okay. Why is it okay? Like, why? Like, genuinely, I want to know why you think that socialism is okay. As opposed to private ownership, which we should all be for. Being able to own your own things. Like, what? Anyway. Um, yeah, so the National Socialist German Workers' Party in the 1920s. That year, Hitler also formulated a 25-point program that became the permanent basis for the party. The program called for German abandonment of the Treaty of Versailles and for the expansion of German territories. So obviously, you know, at that time, World War I had happened, and Germans were beat, and they were recovering, and you know, Hitler played on this. Um, he united the German workers and told them that what that the not that the Jews are, and you see, and this is the problem I have with even anti-Semitic people now. It's like, can you not see, like, your hate? And I know maybe on this website, maybe on Rumble, like, people are very anti-Jew. Um I'm not saying I'm for Jewish people. I'm not for the Jew. Like, what? How do I say this? I'm not anti-Jew. Like, I could, like, they're as long as they're not like I don't know. As long as they're not I don't know, like, what, like pushing Jewish. See, this is such a tricky topic because I don't get how people can just be like, you know, it's the Jews, it's their fault. They run this, they run that. It's all their fault. Like, blah blah blah. Like, it's they're in control. Like, they're evil. Like, I don't get where that comes from, because I mean that's basically what Hitler did. He literally said, um, you know, all of your problems are because of the Jews. So this is not something new to. And I think the Bible itself says, you know, that the Jews will always like they're always gonna be hated like this, which is just crazy to me. But anyway, yeah, you know, so yeah, um, these appeals for national aggrandizement were accompanied by strident anti-Semitic rhetoric. The party's socialist orientation was basically a demagogic gambit designed to attract support from the working. So they're saying that it was only a gambit designed to attract support from the working class, which is fair enough. But you can see, even there, like, what? Okay, yeah, it's a gambit. Like, it was a trick. Like, they tricked the working class to join their terrible, you know, beliefs and whatnot. So I mean, isn't that what the Democrats do now? Kind of like, they're they're tricking these people, working class, not really tricking them, but like, kind of like, oh, come to our side, you know, we care for you guys. When in reality, they don't give two shits about any working class person. They despise the working. They, especially Democrats now, they look down on people that work and do stuff like that. I got a phone. All right. I'm gonna come back to this because this is really interesting, but I have to end the stream for now. I will be back. I only did 40 minutes. I'll be back probably tomorrow. But I hope you guys have a great night. Yeah, I'll catch y'all around.